A businessman saw a child begging at a traffic light. When he opened the window of his limousine, he couldn't believe what the child was capable of doing. "Today, I'll earn enough for at least a piece of bread," the boy thought, as he approached a car waiting at the red light. At the intersection, the boy, Eli, chose a simpler car, thinking someone inside might have a kinder heart. Using an old rag, he started wiping the windshield with quick, precise motions. The driver, a middle-aged man, rolled down the window and handed Eli a few coins. "Thank you, sir," Eli said with a smile, trying to hide the hunger gnawing at his stomach. He knew he had to stay hopeful and grateful for whatever he could get, no matter how small. As the day wore on, the heat from the sun beat down hard on the city. Eli was tired, but couldn't afford to stop. "Just a few more cars," he whispered to himself as he wiped the sweat from his forehead. Then he spotted a luxury car approaching. With a mix of hope and nervousness, he decided to take a chance. As he got closer, he noticed the windows were shut, but that didn't discourage him. "Come on, Eli, you got this," he thought as he walked toward the next car. While moving, he saw another child, younger and visibly hungrier, sitting on the sidewalk. He paused for a moment and, after counting his coins, realized the girl needed the money more than he did. She looked weaker and more desperate. "Hey, are you hungry?" he asked, approaching her with a kind smile. The girl nodded shyly, her big eyes filled with hope. Eli handed her some of his coins, saying, "Here, get yourself something to eat. I can still earn more." The girl's eyes welled up with tears of gratitude as she whispered, "Thank you. I'm so hungry," struggling to stand. Eli helped her up. "You don't have to thank me. I know how hard it is," he said, pushing aside his own hunger to help the little girl. Eli glanced around, noticing other kids in similar, if not worse, situations. Seeing that gave him the strength to keep going, knowing he wasn't fighting alone. "I'm going to make it," he told himself, trying to stay determined. He walked up to the next intersection, where a group of people were waiting for the light to change. With a brave smile, Eli approached a woman carrying heavy bags. "I can help you with your bags, ma'am," he offered, hoping for a tip. She turned to face him and expressed surprise at his offer. "You seem so young to be doing this kind of work," she said, with a concerned tone. Eli smiled and replied, "I've got to work. I think it's good for me, ma'am." He wasn't lying. Every day he worked hard, carrying bags, washing cars, and helping out where he could, hoping to earn just enough for some food. The woman handed him a bag and thanked him with a few coins. That small act made Eli feel a little more at ease. Every little bit helps, he thought. At the end of the day, Eli counted the coins he had earned, figuring out that it would be enough for a simple meal. Still not enough. His stomach growled in hunger. He decided to try one more time before giving up and headed to another intersection. "I just need a few more coins," he thought as he approached a car. With renewed courage, Eli asked the driver if he could clean the windshield, hoping his honesty and hard work would be rewarded. But the man refused, shooing him away. "Get out of here, kid. You'll just make my car dirty," he yelled, making Eli shrink back in fear. As the day came to an end, Eli found a small corner in the park to rest. He watched the city lights flicker on and saw people rushing by. Despite being tired and hungry, he held on to the hope that tomorrow would be better. "Tomorrow's a new day, Eli. You're going to make it," he whispered to himself, trying to stay optimistic. Even with all the struggles, he never lost faith in the kindness of others or in the chance for a better future. Evan Bennett, a middle-aged man with sharp features and an imposing presence, walked through the busy streets of Boston on his way to an important meeting. He wore a flawless suit, reflecting the success he had achieved in the business world. Evan had built his fortune through sheer hard work and determination, starting from nothing and overcoming countless challenges along the way. Today would be a pivotal day, he thought, straightening his tie before stepping into a sleek office building. Inside the lavish office, Evan was greeted with respect and admiration. His employees acknowledged him with deference, fully aware of his inspiring rise to success. Stacks of contracts and significant documents were all around his desk as he settled in. The company's never been in a better position, he reflected with satisfaction as he scanned over the financial reports. Yet, despite all the material success, there was a lingering emptiness, one that not even all the wealth in the world could fill. But why do I still feel this void? He silently wondered, glancing at an old photo of his parents that sat on his desk. Evan thought back to his modest childhood, where every penny had to be stretched, and hard work wasn't just encouraged, it was necessary. It wasn't a choice. He took pride in having overcome those challenges, but the memory of his roots stirred an unease deep inside him. Maybe that's what I need, a cause, something money can't buy. As the day wore on, Evan moved from one meeting to the next, negotiating with the same confidence and determination that had earned him his reputation. In the business world, he was respected not just for his success, but for his strong ethics and integrity. But even those values didn't fill the emptiness in his heart. Business is business, but at the end of the day, what truly matters? He asked himself during a brief coffee break, gazing out at the bustling city through the office window. I need to find a purpose beyond just profit, he concluded, sensing a growing need for change. At the close of a lengthy meeting, one of his associates mentioned a charity event happening in the city. Normally laser-focused on the bottom line, Evan found himself intrigued by the idea. Maybe this is what I need. Something more meaningful, he mused, considering getting involved. Helping others might just be the missing piece, he thought, recalling how hope had once been all he had. Later, driving through the streets, Evan observed the world outside his car window. He saw people sleeping on the sidewalks, and it took him back to his own tough childhood. What would my parents think if they saw me now? He wondered, as he sifted through the paperwork on his desk. Despite everything he had accomplished, Evan felt like something essential was still missing from his life. I've been through tough times too, he thought, his chest tightening, as he remembered the hunger he felt when his parents struggled to find work. Evan continued driving slowly through the streets of Boston, reflecting on his choice to seek out a deeper purpose in his life. He stopped at a red light and glanced out the window, noticing a young boy approaching with a dirty rag in his hand. The boy, with eyes full of determination, walked up to the luxury car, but hesitated for a moment. "Please, sir, don't hurt me," said Eli, his voice shaky with fear. "Yesterday, a man got aggressive and threatened me for coming too close to his new car," the boy explained, his cautious tone catching Iban's attention. Evan lowered the window and calmly responded, "Don't worry, kid. I'm not going to hurt you. What do you need?" "I just want to clean your car, sir. I'm trying to earn enough to get some food," he said, his voice a mix of hope and anxiety. Iban, impressed by the boy's determination, allowed him to start cleaning. "Go ahead, you can clean the front," he added. As Eli wiped the windshield with quick, careful strokes, Evan watched him closely. The boy worked with a kind of dedication that was rare, especially for someone so young. "You're good at this, Eli," Evan said, trying to make conversation. Eli paused for a moment, looked up at Iban, and smiled. "Thank you, sir. I try to do my best at everything I do." Those simple yet sincere words struck something deep within Iban. This kid deserves a chance, Evan thought, impressed by Eli's maturity. When Eli finished cleaning the car, Evan handed him a large sum of money. "This is for your hard work," he said. Eli hesitated, his eyes widening at the large amount. "Sir, I only want to make enough to eat today. I'm not looking for charity. Just a chance to work and earn my food, he said, with a straightforwardness that left the millionaire taken aback. I don't want handouts, just a fair shot. The boy's honesty moved Iban, leaving him temporarily speechless. Suddenly, the boy handed the bills back, keeping only a small one for the work he had done. It's clear he doesn't just want money. He's looking for a chance to prove himself, thought the man, feeling a growing connection with the boy. What's your name? The millionaire asked. The hard-working boy seemed taken aback by the question, as if no one had ever bothered to ask him something so simple, or as if nobody cared enough to know. I'm Eli, sir, the boy replied hesitantly. Seeing Eli's uncertainty, Evan decided he had to do more. You're hungry, right, Eli? Let's head over to that diner and grab a bite. After that, my car could use another cleaning. He pointed toward a small diner down the street. It was an excuse to spend more time with the boy, to get to know him and see how he could help. Eli, surprised and grateful, accepted the offer. Thank you, sir, he said quietly. Evan smiled, feeling satisfied that he had found a way to offer help without hurting the boy's pride. All right then, let's go, Evan said, opening the car door. As they walked, Evan took the opportunity to learn more about Eli. Where are your parents, Eli? He asked gently, trying to get a sense of the boy's situation. Eli dropped his gaze and replied in a low voice, I lost them a while back. I've been on my own since. Evan felt a lump in his throat as the boy's words sank in. This kid's been through so much already, he thought, deepening his resolve to help him. You've been really brave, Eli. Living like that isn't easy, Evan said, hoping to comfort him. When they reached the simple, modest diner, Evan ordered a full meal for Eli. As they ate, Evan kept watching the boy with growing admiration. Even though he was clearly hungry, Eli ate slowly, savoring each bite. Thank you, sir. This means a lot to me, Eli said, his eyes shining with gratitude. Evan smiled back. You deserve it, Eli. Hard work and honesty are rare these days, he said. Feeling even more determined, Evan knew he needed to find a way to offer something more lasting for Eli. He could feel the stares of people around him, curious and surprised to see a man in a sharp suit sitting in a humble diner with a street kid. The customer's curiosity was almost palpable. At the end of the meal, Evan locked eyes with Eli and made up his mind. Eli, I really want to help you. How about you come stay at my place? That way, you won't have to worry about where you're going to sleep or what you'll eat tomorrow. I promise, I won't hurt you. I just want to help. Eli hesitated for a moment, his gaze fixed on the millionaire as he weighed whether or not he could trust him. But there was something in Iban's eyes that made Eli decide to take the leap. He felt a flutter of hope. Are you serious? He asked, his voice trembling slightly. Evan nodded firmly. Yes, I am. Let's go to my place. You're hungry, and you deserve a chance at a better life. With tears welling in his eyes, Eli accepted the offer. Thank you, sir. I won't let you down. Evan smiled warmly and replied, I know you won't, Eli. Let's go. We have a lot to do. And with that, Evan brought Eli home, determined to turn the boy's life around. As they drove, Evan thought to himself, maybe helping Eli is the key to finding what's been missing in my own life, doing good for someone who truly needs it. Back at the mansion, Iban's mother, Cecilia Bennett, stood in the lavish garden, admiring the perfectly manicured hedges. She was a woman who cared only for status and wealth, her face seemingly frozen in a constant expression of disapproval, especially toward her son's decisions. Sipping her tea, she thought back to the previous day. Evan was reminiscing about the days when we were poor, before he turned our lives around. He should know that family image is everything, and he shouldn't be bringing up such matters in front of others. Just then, Evan walked into the house with Eli, the boy still covered in dirt and wearing torn clothes, but there was a new glimmer of hope in his eyes. The moment Cecilia saw them, her face twisted in disgust. "What is this, Iban?" Her voice was cold, cutting through the air. Iban, calm and composed, answered, "Mum, this is Eli. He needs help, and I've decided to bring him here." Cecilia looked Eli up and down, her disapproval clear in her expression. "This is unacceptable," she said, her tone icy. Cecilia stormed toward Iban, her frustration evident in every step. "You can't just bring a kid off the streets into our home. Have you thought about what this will do to our image?" Evan took a deep breath, prepared for this reaction. "Mom, this isn't about appearances. It's about doing the right thing. Eli needs us," he said calmly. Cecilia crossed her arms, unimpressed. "And what do you think people will say when they find out we're housing a beggar?" "This is unacceptable," she argued. Sensing the tension, Eli took a step back, but Evan placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "He's not a beggar, Mom. He's a child who's had a tough life and deserves a chance." But Cecilia wasn't having it. "Iban, you're being naive. People like him are just looking for a way to take advantage of us. He's going to bring trouble into this house." Iban, with a firm tone, responded, "I believe in Eli. He deserves a chance." His conviction didn't sway Celia, though, as she turned away, heading toward the living room in clear frustration. "You've always been stubborn, Iban, but this is too much. I won't allow him to stay here." Evan followed her, keeping his voice steady. "Mom, this is my house, and I've already made up my mind. Eli is staying. He needs a safe place, and I'm going to give it to him." Cecilia stopped and spun around to face him. "If anything goes wrong, it'll be on you," she said, clearly angry at her son's insistence on keeping the boy. Evan felt a mix of frustration and determination. "That's fine, Mom. I'll take responsibility." Celia, still doubtful, shot a glare at Eli. "Don't think life here is going to be easy, kid. I'll be watching you," she said, coldly dismissing the fact that he was just a child. Despite his fear, Eli stood his ground. "I'm a good kid, Mom," he said, his voice steady, though he was clearly scared. Evan felt a swelling of pride. "He'll prove you wrong, Mom." As Cecilia walked away, muttering about Iban's foolishness, he led Eli to the guest room. "I'm sorry about this, Eli. My mom can be tough, but I'm here for you," the millionaire said, apologizing. Eli nodded, grateful. "Thank you, sir." "I'll do my best not to let you down," the boy promised, making Evan smile as he patted him on the shoulder. "I know you will, Celia." Celia, sitting alone in the living room, stared out the window, reflecting on Iban's decision. "This is ridiculous. He's risking everything we've worked for," she muttered under her breath. She was sure Evan was making a huge mistake, and she was determined to prove herself right. "I'll be here when it all falls apart," she thought coldly. Iban, on the other hand, was confident. "I made the right call," he thought, while preparing a meal for Eli. He knew the road ahead would be tough, especially with his mother's resistance, but he was set on giving Eli a fresh start. "We'll do this together, Eli. We're going to prove that kindness still has power," he whispered, feeling a happiness he hadn't experienced in a long time. Evan then showed Eli his new room and led him to the kitchen, where he prepared a simple but hearty meal. At first hesitant, the boy began eating eagerly, each bite revealing just how hungry he was, despite having just come from the cafeteria. Evan watched quietly, his heart aching at Eli's obvious need. "You must be really hungry," he commented, offering more food. Eli nodded, too focused on eating to respond. "Eat as much as you need. There's plenty more. You can have whatever you want here," Evan encouraged. After the meal, Evan took Eli to the guest room, pulling out some clean clothes from the closet, leftovers from when his young nephew used to visit. "Here, put these on, Eli. I'll get a bath ready for you," Evan said, pointing to the bathroom. Eli, still shy, took the clothes and quietly thanked him. "Thank you, sir. I've never had such nice clothes." Evan felt a mix of sadness and resolve. "That's going to change, Eli," he thought. While Eli bathed, Evan gathered a first aid kit to tend to the boy's wounds. He noticed cuts and bruises on Eli's arms and legs, clear signs of a tough life on the streets. "I'll take care of this," he murmured to himself. When Eli emerged, clean and in fresh clothes, Evan began carefully treating his wounds. "This might sting a bit, but it's going to help you heal," Evan warned as he carefully tended to Eli's wounds. Eli only nodded, grateful for the care. In the middle of it all, Cecilia walked into the room, her face twisting in shock and disgust at the sight of Evan looking after the boy. "What are you doing, Iban?" she asked, her voice thick with disapproval. Evan stayed calm, not letting his focus waver as he continued treating Eli's injuries. "I'm taking care of him, Mum. Eli has some bruises," he replied firmly. Cecilia scoffed in disbelief. "This is ridiculous. He's a beggar, not a guest," she exclaimed. Evan finished bandaging Eli and stood up to face his mother. "He's not just a beggar, Mom. He's a kid. I won't stand by and let you treat him like this," he said, meeting her gaze with unflinching resolve. Cecilia folded her arms, her expression hardening even more. "What will people think when they find out we brought a street kid into our home?" Evan took a deep breath, ready for the confrontation. "I don't care what people think. What matters is doing what's right." Cecilia didn't seem convinced, but she stormed out of the room with an irritated look on her face. Evan then turned his attention back to Eli, feeling for the first time in a long while that his life had a real purpose. The next morning, Evan found Eli sitting at the kitchen table, staring intently at the newspaper. The boy frowned, moving his lips as if trying to make sense of the words. Evan watched for a moment, realizing that Eli couldn't read. "Trying to read the news?" Evan asked, pulling up a chair beside him. Eli nodded shyly, his face flushing with embarrassment. "I don't know how to read, sir," he finally admitted, looking down at his hands. Evan gave him an understanding smile and placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. "Don't worry about that, Eli. We can start learning today," Evan said, as he grabbed a notebook and a pen, determined to teach Eli to read and write. They started with the letters of the alphabet, with Evan patiently explaining each one. Eli focused intently, his eyes shining with determination. "A, B, C," he repeated, concentrating hard to remember each letter. Eli picked things up so quickly, and Evan was impressed because he already knew a few of the letters. "You're doing great, Eli. With a little practice, you'll be reading in no time," Evan encouraged. While working, Cecilia walked into the kitchen, glancing around with a skeptical look. "Iban, do you really think he's going to learn? You can't expect to teach a street kid how to read," she said, folding her arms across her chest. Iban, still focused on Eli, responded calmly. "Mom, everyone deserves a chance. Eli is smart and determined. He'll make it." Cecilia scoffed and walked out of the room, still undecided. Evan turned his attention back to Eli, who was now carefully writing his first words. "Great job, Eli. Now let's try putting a sentence together," Evan said, pointing to the notebook. Eli hesitated, but wrote slowly. "My name is Eli." Evan smiled proudly. "You did it. Awesome work." Later that day, Evan contacted his lawyer to start the process of adopting Eli, knowing his financial resources would make it smoother. The legal team quickly got to work on the paperwork so Eli could eventually be enrolled in school. In the following weeks, Evan spent time daily teaching Eli. The boy was a fast and eager learner, always excited to know more. "I want to learn everything, sir," Eli would say, his voice full of determination. Impressed with Eli's progress, Evan decided to enroll him in school. "Education will open many doors for you," Evan explained. However, Cecilia continued to express her doubts. "Iban, you're wasting your time. He's never going to fit in," she insisted, shaking her head. But Evan stood firm. "He'll fit in, Mum. Eli has so much potential, and I believe in him," he replied, determined to give Eli every opportunity he deserved. The next morning, Evan and Eli arrived at the school, both anxious and full of hope. Evan had explained to Eli what to expect, but he knew the school's reaction was unpredictable. "Come on, Eli. This is a fresh start for you," Evan said, trying to reassure him. Eli took a deep breath and nodded, ready to seize the chance. The secretary welcomed them when they arrived at the school and led them to the principal's office. The principal, a middle-aged woman with a stern expression, looked at them with suspicion. "Good morning. How can I assist you?" she asked, not quite able to hide her hesitation. Evan gave a polite smile. "Good morning. This is Eli, and I'd like to enroll him in school." The principal raised an eyebrow as she glanced at Eli. "Has he attended any school before?" she asked, her tone full of skepticism as she observed the child's curious gaze around the polished school environment. Evan remained calm. "Eli hasn't had the chance to go to a formal school, but he's smart and eager to learn. He lived on the streets before I was granted temporary custody, and now he finally has an opportunity to study. I'm confident that, with dedication and support from the school, he'll catch up with the other students quickly," Evan said, feeling proud of the boy. However, the principal scoffed, looking Eli up and down with an air of superiority. "We don't accept students without a proper school record." Evan took a deep breath, holding on to his patience. "I understand your concern, but every child deserves an education no matter where they come from. Eli deserves this chance as much as any other student." The principal folded her arms, clearly unconvinced. "We have standards here. We can't just make exceptions for any child that walks in." Eli, sensing the tension, glanced at Evan with concern. Evan gave the boy a reassuring squeeze on the shoulder before turning back to the principal. "I'm willing to do whatever it takes to ensure Eli gets the education he deserves. He's a determined kid with a lot of potential." The principal sighed, still unsure. "Even so, we have our rules." But Iban's persistence was starting to break through, and she began to show signs of relenting. "All right, we can start with an initial evaluation to see where he stands," she said, though not without reluctance. Evan smiled, grateful. "Thank you for your understanding. I'm sure Eli will prove himself. And just so we're clear, I expect him to receive the same dedicated attention as every other student," Evan added, concerned about the principal's attitude, but determined to give Eli the best possible education. After the evaluation confirmed Eli's potential, the principal still seemed doubtful. "I'm not sure he'll fit in," she muttered while filling out the enrollment forms. Sensing her hesitation, Evan replied firmly, "Adaptation takes time, but with support he'll make it. Eli is resilient and ready to put in the work." Finally, the principal signed the papers with a look of reluctant acceptance. "All right, we'll give him a chance," she said, handing the documents over to Iban. "But let me warn you, any issues and we'll have to reconsider his enrollment." Evan nodded, understanding the gravity of her words. "Understood. Thank you for the opportunity," he said gratefully. As they stepped out of the principal's office, Evan kneeled down beside Eli, smiling. "You did it, Eli. Now's your time to show everyone what you're made of. Don't ever let anyone make you feel like you don't belong or that your worth is any less," Evan told the boy. Eli, his eyes filled with gratitude, responded, Thank you, sir. I won't forget this. Evan felt a rush of pride and hope. I know you won't. Let's get started on this new journey, he said. As they walked through the school hallways, Evan couldn't help but think about how far they had come in such a short time. This is only the beginning, Eli, he thought to himself, feeling renewed in his mission. He knew that despite the challenges, they were on the right path to transforming Eli's life. Evan took Eli to a downtown mall to pick out some new clothes for school. Eli was excited, though a little nervous. I've never had new clothes, sir, except for the ones you gave me when I moved in with you, Eli said, gazing at the store displays with wide eyes. Evan had bought him a few outfits over the past few weeks, but they had never gone shopping together in a store before. Seeing the joy in the boy's eyes, the wealthy man smiled at the simplicity of it all. Today you get to choose, Eli. Pick out whatever you like, Evan encouraged, trying to boost his confidence. As they entered the store, Iban's phone rang. He glanced at the screen and saw it was an important business call. Eli, go ahead and pick out some clothes. I need to take this call. I'll be back in a minute, Evan said, gesturing to the racks. Eli nodded, still a bit unsure, but decided to follow Iban's instructions. Eli began browsing through the clothes, admiring the shirts and pants on display. He picked up a few pieces, trying to imagine how they would look on him, not realizing there were fitting rooms to try them on, since he had never been in a store like this before. However, a saleswoman approached him with a look of disdain. "What are you doing here?" she asked coldly, noticing that Eli seemed unfamiliar with the shopping process. Eli nervously responded after noticing her hostile tone. "I'm trying to pick out some clothes to buy, but I'm not sure if this one will look good on me." The saleswoman sighed, clearly annoyed. "Don't you know what a fitting room is? You don't belong here. Leave now, or I'll call security," she demanded, pushing Eli toward the door. Eli tried to explain, but the saleswoman wasn't interested in listening. "Please, my guardian is here. He told me to choose some clothes," Eli pleaded, but the saleswoman stood firm. "Get out now," she insisted. Iban, finishing a phone call, witnessed the scene from outside the store. He rushed in, his face a mix of concern and anger. "What's going on here?" he asked, looking between the saleswoman and Eli. The saleswoman, surprised to see Iban, tried to defend her actions. "This kid was touching the clothes without permission. He doesn't even know what a fitting room is. He definitely doesn't have the money to buy anything from this store. This is an exclusive place," she said, sounding defensive. Evan looked at Eli, who was visibly shaken. "He's not the issue here. He's my son. And he's here because I told him to be," Evan said firmly, turning toward the saleswoman. "It's unacceptable to judge someone based on how they look. I'll take my business elsewhere," he added, taking Eli's hand and leading him out of the store. The saleswoman turned pale, realizing her mistake too late. Evan and Eli went to another store, where they were greeted with a warm smile and respectful service. Eli picked out several new outfits, still a bit shaken, but feeling more confident with Iban's support. Evan showed him where the fitting rooms were, so he could try on the clothes he liked. "Thank you, sir. I don't know what I would have done without you," Eli said, while trying on a new shirt. Evan smiled, pleased with Eli's choices. "You deserve it, Eli. Never let anyone make you feel less than you are," he responded. After finishing their shopping, they left with several bags full of clothes. As they passed the first store, the saleswoman saw them carrying the bags and realized how much they had spent. Evan made sure to stop in front of the display window and show off the receipts. "Look how much we spent at the other store," he said, showing the bags. "This is what happens when you treat people with respect." The saleswoman glanced at the receipts, then at Iban, clearly regretting her actions. "I'm so sorry, sir," she muttered. I shouldn't have been so quick to judge, she said, her voice heavy with regret. Evan nodded, accepting the apology, but making sure to leave a lasting message. Remember this the next time you meet someone who seems out of place. Everyone deserves respect. Eben's words lingered as he and Eli walked out of the mall. Eli looked up at Eben, admiration clear in his eyes. Thank you for standing up for me, sir. I'll never forget it, he said, gripping the bags filled with his new clothes tightly. Evan smiled, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. I'll always be here for you, Eli, Evan reassured him as they headed toward the car, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. When Eli's first day of school arrived, he was nervous, but also eager to start this new chapter. Evan walked him to the front door, encouraging him with warm words. Remember, Eli, you're just as important as any other kid here. Don't let anyone make you feel otherwise, Evan said, giving the boy's shoulder a firm squeeze. Eli nodded, determined to do his best. Thanks, sir. I'll try my hardest not to let you down, the boy replied. As Eli entered the classroom, curious stares and whispers greeted him. Mrs. Martha, the teacher, introduced Eli to the class. This is Eli. He's new here, and I hope you'll all be kind to him, she said with a welcoming smile. Eli took a seat in the back, trying to blend in, but soon enough the other kids started whispering. I heard the principal say he was a beggar, one boy muttered to his friend. Eli overheard and felt his face flush with embarrassment. During recess, a group of kids approached him on the playground. Are you really a street kid? One of them asked with a sneer. Eli took a deep breath, trying to stay calm and make friends. Not anymore, he said, attempting to defend himself. Another kid laughed. You really think you can fit in here? You'll never belong, the boy taunted. Feeling helpless, Eli walked away, trying to avoid more trouble. Back in the classroom, Mrs. Martha noticed the tension and decided to address it. We're going to solve some math problems today, she announced, writing a complicated equation on the board. Who's brave enough to give it a shot? The room fell silent. No one seemed willing to try. Despite his shyness, Eli raised his hand. I can give it a try, Mum, Eli said with a steady voice. He walked up to the whiteboard, feeling the curious stares of his classmates on his back. He overheard one boy whisper to another, I doubt he can do it. Eli paused for a moment, thinking back to the days he spent on the streets, where every cent mattered for survival, and recalled the lessons he'd learned in recent weeks with Iban. With confidence, he began solving the problem, explaining each step. First, we need to add these numbers, then multiply the result by 2, he said, writing clearly. The room fell silent as Eli worked. When he finished, the teacher checked his answer and smiled. That's absolutely right, Eli. Excellent job. You all should take note from Eli, she added. The class was stunned, some whispering in amazement at his skills. He's really smart, one of the girls murmured. Eli returned to his seat, feeling a surge of pride and relief. Maybe I really do belong here, he thought, giving a shy smile. The boy who had questioned him sat there motionless, obviously impressed with Eli's intelligence. After class, Ms. Martha called Eli over for a chat. You did a fantastic job today, Eli. I'm very proud of you, she said with a warm smile. Eli, still a bit shy, nodded and softly said, Thank you, ma'am. I've always had to count my money carefully to survive on the streets, he explained. His story touched Ms. Martha, who made a silent promise to assist him in adjusting. You have so much potential, Eli. Don't let anyone make you believe otherwise, she encouraged him. As he walked home, Eli thought about the day. It had been tough, but I proved that I can do this, he reflected, feeling a new sense of confidence bloom inside him. When he arrived home, Evan greeted him with a hug. How was your first day? Evan asked eagerly. Eli smiled, his eyes shining with happiness. "It went well, sir. I solved a tough problem, and the teacher praised me," he replied. Evan felt a wave of pride and relief wash over him. "I knew you'd pull it off, Eli. You're incredibly smart," he said, hugging the boy. Eli, feeling more confident, understood that there were still challenges ahead, but he was prepared to face them. "Thank you for believing in me, sir. I couldn't have done it without your support," Eli responded. Evan smiled, knowing that together they could overcome anything. "I'll always be here for you, Eli. We'll keep showing everyone your worth," Evan concluded, proud to see Eli's accomplishments. Weeks later, the mansion was unusually quiet until Cecilia realized her valuable sapphire brooch had gone missing. Evan was at work, and Eli was at home doing his homework when he heard Celia's scream. Tension quickly filled the house as Cecilia frantically searched every drawer and closet. "Where is it? That brooch is worth a fortune," Cecilia shouted, her frustration turning into suspicion. Cecilia suddenly confronted Eli, who had been studying in the living room with a book Evan had given him. "Eli, have you seen my sapphire brooch?" she demanded, her tone sharp and accusatory. Her question caused Eli to look up from his book. "No, ma'am. I haven't seen your brooch," he answered, trying to stay calm. But Cecilia wasn't convinced. "You're the only outsider in this house. It had to be you," she accused him. The direct accusation left Eli stunned. He tried to explain, but Cecilia cut him off. "Don't even try to deny it. You've been nothing but trouble since the day you arrived. Evan might trust you, but I never did. I always knew you were after his money," she yelled. Eli felt a painful squeeze in his chest at the unfairness of her words. "Ma'am, I didn't steal your brooch. I would never do that," he said firmly. But Cecilia was determined to blame Eli. "Then prove it. Where's my brooch? If it wasn't you, who else could it have been? Our staff is trustworthy." Eli felt a mix of anger and sadness. Without Evan around to defend him, he knew his words wouldn't hold up against Celia's distrust. "I don't know where your brooch is, but I know it wasn't me," Eli responded with a steady voice, though tears began to well up. He felt cornered, with no one to stand up for him. And that's when Eli made a tough decision. Eli couldn't stand the idea of causing more trouble in Iban's house any longer. He made up his mind that leaving was the best option, even if that meant returning to the streets. "I can't stay here if you think I'm a thief," he told Iban, while gathering up the old clothes he had arrived with, not wanting to be accused of stealing the ones Evan had given him. Before he left, Eli grabbed a piece of paper and a pen, sitting down to write a note for Evan to explain his decision. "Mr. Iban, I'm sorry I have to leave. Mrs. Cecilia believes I stole her brooch, but I swear it wasn't me. I don't want to cause more problems for you. Thank you for everything you've done for me. I'll always be grateful for your kindness. Sincerely, Eli." He placed the note on the table, and with a heavy heart, he quietly slipped out the back door. As he walked down the streets, Eli couldn't stop thinking about how unfair the accusation had been. "I was finally starting to feel at home. And now this," he thought, struggling to hold back his tears. He knew his leaving would hurt Iban, but he felt like he had no other choice. "Cecilia will never accept me. I'll miss Iban, but I need to go back to where I belong," he decided. Evan came home later than usual, tired from work, but eager to hear how Eli's day at school had gone. As he walked into the mansion, he noticed an eerie silence that sent a chill down his spine. "Mum, where's Eli?" he called out, but there was no immediate response. Walking into the living room, he saw Cecilia sitting with a stern expression on her face. "Where is Eli?" Evan asked, concern clear in his voice. Cecilia sighed, visibly irritated. "Iban, Eli is gone. He stole my sapphire brooch and ran away," she stated firmly. Evan felt his heart sink. What? That doesn't make sense. Eli would never do that. He's not a thief, he defended, refusing to believe his mother's accusations. Cecilia crossed her arms, her tone unwavering. He's a street kid, Iban. What else did you expect? She said, her judgment harsh and uncaring. Desperate, Evan began searching the house for Eli, convinced his mother was exaggerating and that the boy wouldn't have left without saying goodbye. That's when he noticed a piece of paper on the table. He picked it up and began reading the note. Mr. Iban, I'm sorry I have to leave. Mrs. Cecilia believes I stole her brooch, but I swear it wasn't me. I don't want to cause more problems. Thank you for everything you've done for me. I'll never forget your kindness. With love and gratitude, Eli. Those words hit Evan hard, stirring a deep pain within him. Evan rushed downstairs, furious with Cecilia for letting the boy go. Mom, he's not a thief. You accused him unfairly. You shouldn't have let him leave, he said with frustration. As Evan confronted his mother, one of the house staff entered the room, looking uneasy. Mr. Iban, I think I've found Miss Celia's brooch, the employee said, holding it up. It was underneath a pile of towels in the laundry room. It must have fallen there by accident. Evan took the brooch, a mix of relief and anger coursing through him. So, Eli was telling the truth all along. He was wrongfully blamed, he said, casting a disappointed look at Celia. Cecilia stood in silence for a moment, processing the news. I didn't know. I thought he had stolen it, she murmured, her voice less sure than before. Evan shook his head, frustrated. That's the problem, Mom. You jump to conclusions because of your biases. Eli is a good kid, and now he's out on the streets again because of you, he accused, his worry growing. Evan felt an urgency building inside him. He had to make this right. I'm going to find him, Mom, and when I bring him back, you need to show him the respect he deserves, Evan said firmly, his voice resolute. Cecilia looked down, Iban's words beginning to sink in. I just want what's best for our family, she muttered, though not with much conviction. As he moved through the house, Iban's determination grew stronger. Eli can't have gone far, he thought. He paused, considering where the boy might have gone. The traffic light, where I first met him. That's where he'll be, Evan decided, his chest tightening at the thought of the boy returning to the streets. But he knew it was his best shot at finding him. Evan drove through the city frantically, worry weighing heavily on him. He knew finding Eli wouldn't be easy, but he couldn't give up. He has to be there, he kept thinking. As he neared the traffic light where they first crossed paths, night had already fallen and the city lights shimmered around him. But the only thing on Iban's mind was finding Eli. Pulling up to the traffic light, his eyes scanned every corner, looking for any sign of the boy. Please, God, let him be here, he prayed as he parked the car. Evan stepped out and began walking down the sidewalk, scanning every face he passed. In the distance, he spotted a small, familiar figure sitting on the curb with his head down. Eli! Evan shouted, sprinting toward the boy. Eli looked up, startled to see Evan running toward him, and immediately began to cry. Dad, you came for me, he said, his eyes filled with tears of hope. Evan kneeled beside him, his heart swelling with relief at having found Eli and with emotion at finally being called Dad. Eli, of course I came. I'd never leave you, my boy, Evan said, his voice thick with emotion. Eli shook his head, tears still brimming in his eyes. I thought I'd never see you again, sir. I didn't steal the brooch, I swear, he choked out. Evan placed his hands on Eli's shoulders, looking him directly in the eye. I know, Eli. I always believed in you. "It was a misunderstanding, and I'm here to take you home," he said firmly. Eli looked at Iban, still unsure. "And your mum?" "She doesn't want me there," he said, hesitant. Evan shook his head, determined. "I'll handle my mother. What matters is you coming home with me. You deserve to be somewhere you're loved and respected," he said, helping Eli to his feet. The boy nodded, feeling more secure with Evan by his side. "Thank you, Dad. I trust you," Eli said. As they walked back to the car, Evan couldn't help but feel a wave of relief and joy wash over him. He knew this was a pivotal moment for both of them. "You should never have left the house. Don't ever do that again. That house is your safe place," Evan said, buckling Eli into the car. Eli, still emotional, looked at Evan with gratitude. "Thank you for believing in me," he said, his voice trembling with emotion. Evan reached for his phone before starting the car. He knew he needed to make a bold move to ensure his mother took the situation seriously. "Hi. Yes, I'd like to cancel all my mother's credit cards," he told the assistant, his voice steady. He knew this was the only way to force Cecilia to rethink her behavior and start seeing Eli differently. Later that night, Cecilia went out to dine at an upscale restaurant, completely unaware that her cards had been cancelled. After ordering an expensive meal, she was shocked to discover that her card wasn't working. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but your card has been declined," the waiter informed her. Cecilia tried using 2 more cards, but the outcome didn't change. "This must be a mistake," she mumbled, her anxiety rising. She approached the manager, attempting to explain the situation. "I'm Cecilia Bennetts. There has to be some kind of error. Please let me fix this," she pleaded. However, the manager remained firm. "I'm sorry, Ms. Benitez, but we can't serve you without payment," he stated, his tone final. Cecilia felt humiliated, a feeling she hadn't experienced in years. Desperate, she left the restaurant without eating, her thoughts drifting back to harder times. As she wandered the streets, memories of her youth came flooding back. Times when she was struggling to make ends meet and care for Evan, with her late husband. "I forgot what it feels like to be hungry and looked down upon," she thought, tears welling in her eyes. The reminder of her own past made her reconsider how she had treated Eli. When Cecilia returned home, she found Evan and Eli sitting in the living room. Hesitant, she approached Eli, her heart heavy with the realization of her mistakes. "Eli, I'm so sorry," she began, her voice trembling. "I judged you unfairly." "Please forgive me," she asked, kneeling in front of him. Eli, caught off guard but touched, looked from Cecilia to Iban. "Of course, ma'am. I just want a chance to prove that I'm trustworthy," he responded, his voice steady and sincere. Evan watched the scene, feeling a mix of relief and hope. "Mom, Eli is part of this family now. If you can't accept that, you won't be able to stay here," he said firmly. Cecilia looked at Iban, feeling the weight of his words. "I've learned my lesson, Iban. I promise," she said as she stood up. Evan nodded, satisfied with her resolve. "Let's start over together," he said, taking a step toward a more harmonious future. In the weeks that followed, Evan gained full custody of Eli. Though Cecilia had been reluctant at first, she began to notice Eli's good qualities. She saw him helping around the house, studying hard, and showing respect to everyone. Each act of kindness and dedication from Eli slowly chipped away at Celia's prejudice. Maybe I was too harsh, she thought, watching Eli play in the yard. Over time, Cecilia started to see that Eli wasn't just a kid from the streets. He was a boy, filled with potential and kindness. She began to appreciate him more and more, admiring his resilience and determination. Slowly, Cecilia let go of her prejudices and started getting closer to Eli, forming an unexpected bond. And with that, the atmosphere in Iban's house completely shifted. Cecilia and Eli built a relationship rooted in respect and care, learning to accept and grow alongside each other. Iban, witnessing the change in his mother and the joy in Eli, felt a deep sense of gratitude and fulfillment. We're finally a real family, he thought with a smile. Years later, Eli graduated with a degree in social work, dedicating himself to helping kids who, just like him, needed someone to give them a chance. On his graduation day, Cecilia and Evan were there, proud of the young man's incredible journey. The family was more united than ever, ready to show the world that everyone deserves a chance. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Your support motivates us to keep bringing you touching stories almost every day. Don't miss out on the next heartwarming tale that's about to pop up on your screen. We're so grateful to have you here with us. Now, feel free to click on the links showing up on your screen right now. We've handpicked some special content just for you, filled with valuable stories and guaranteed entertainment. See you there.